For 46 years, Bob Knorr carried a secret that weighed heavier with each passing day. Somewhere in the world he had a son he'd never held, a son whose face he'd never seen, a son who didn't even know his real name. Bob was just a young soldier in Vietnam when he fell in love with a local woman. It was 1971, and the war was tearing everything apart. But in the middle of all that chaos, they found each other. She became pregnant, and for a brief moment, Bob imagined a different kind of future. But the war had other plans. Orders came, he was sent home, and she stayed behind, carrying their child. Before he left, Bob gave her his address. He told her to write. He promised he'd help. He waited for months, checking the mailbox every single day. But the letter never came. Vietnam fell. Communication became impossible. And Bob was left with nothing but guilt and 1,000 unanswered questions. Did she have the baby? Was it a boy or a girl? Were they safe? Were they alive? But how do you search for someone when you don't even know if they survived a war? Eventually, life moved forward. Bob got married. He had other children. But that first child, the one he never met, never left his mind. Every birthday, every Father's Day, every quiet moment alone, he wondered. And 3,000 miles away, in California, a man named Sun Vo was wondering too. Sun grew up knowing he was different. His mother told him his father was American, a soldier. She said his name was Bob, but she never told him the full name. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she never knew how to spell it. Maybe the trauma of war had blurred the details. All Sun had was a first name and a fading photograph of a young man in uniform. As Sun got older, the questions grew louder. Who was his father? Did he ever think about him? Did he even know he existed? Sun searched. He looked through military records. He tried every database he could find, but without a last name, without any real information, every search hit a dead end. Year after year, the hope dimmed. Sun started to accept that he might never know. He built his own life. He got married. He had children. By the time Sun reached his 40s, he'd almost given up. Almost. Maybe it was turning 46, the same age his father had been when he was born. Maybe it was watching his own children grow up and realizing what his father had missed. Whatever it was, Sun decided to take an ancestry DNA test. He didn't expect much. Just one last shot in the dark. He sent in his sample and waited. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Bob Knorr was going through old photographs. He was in his 70s now, and the weight of that secret had become unbearable. His wife knew about the son in Vietnam. His other children knew they had a half-brother somewhere. But knowing didn't ease the pain. It just made it more real. Bob's daughter suggested he take a DNA test. Bob didn't believe it. The odds were impossible. Sun didn't have his last name. He was probably using his mother's Vietnamese surname. They lived on opposite coasts. Neither of them knew where the other was. What were the chances that both of them would take the same DNA test at the same time? But Bob's daughter was persistent, so he did it. 3 months later, Bob got an email from Ancestry. He had a match, a close family match. His hands shook as he opened the message. The profile name was Sun Vo, location, California. Age, 46. Bob's heart stopped. He clicked on the profile, and there, staring back at him, was a face he'd never seen but somehow recognized. It was like looking into a mirror. Same eyes, same smile, same everything. Bob called his daughter, his voice breaking. I found him. I found my son. But how do you reach out to someone after 46 years? What do you even say? Bob was terrified. What if Sun was angry? What if he blamed him for leaving? What if he didn't want anything to do with him? Bob sent a message through Ancestry. On the other side of the country, Sun was at work when the notification popped up on his phone. He'd almost forgotten about the DNA test. He opened the message and read it 3 times before it sank in. His father. After all these years, After all the dead ends and disappointments, his father had been looking for him too. Son's hands trembled as he typed his response. "I've been searching for you my whole life." The messages flew back and forth. Bob explained everything. How he'd tried to stay in touch, how he'd checked the mail every day, how he never stopped thinking about him. Son told him about growing up in Vietnam, about coming to America, about the years of searching with only a first name and a prayer. They talked for hours that first day, then every day after that. Phone calls, video chats. 46 years of catching up poured out in weeks of conversation. Bob learned that his son was a good man, a husband, a father, someone who'd built a beautiful life despite never knowing where he came from. Son learned that his father had never abandoned him by choice, that he'd carried the guilt and love for nearly 5 decades. Bob flew to California, his heart pounding the entire flight. When Son walked through the airport terminal, Bob didn't need to guess which one he was. He just knew. They embraced. 2 strangers who were never really strangers at all. Bob held his son, the child he'd thought about every single day for 46 years. Son held his father, the man he'd given up hope of ever finding. Neither of them could speak. They just held on, crying, making up for decades of missed hugs. "I'm so sorry," Bob whispered. Bob met his grandchildren. Son met his half-siblings. 2 families, separated by an ocean. And a war became one family. And then they did something extraordinary. Together, father and son flew to Vietnam. They visited the place where it all began. They honored Son's mother, who had passed away. They walked the streets where Bob had once been a young soldier and where Son had spent his childhood. It was a journey of healing. Bob says now that finding his son was the greatest gift of his life. For years, he'd believed that nothing good had come from his time in Vietnam. But he was wrong. The greatest thing that ever happened to him came from Vietnam. His son. And Son? He finally has the answer to the question that haunted him for 46 years. His father didn't forget him. His father never stopped looking. His father loved him all along. This story isn't just about DNA tests or lucky coincidences. It's about never giving up on love. It's about the invisible threads that connect us, even across oceans and decades. It's about how sometimes the universe has its own timing, and the miracles we need come exactly when we're ready for them. If you're searching for someone, keep searching. If you're hoping for a reunion, keep hoping. And if you've ever doubted whether someone was thinking about you, remember Bob and Son. Remember that somewhere out there, someone might be looking for you too. Some things are worth waiting 46 years for. Some connections are too powerful to be broken by time or distance or war. And some families find their way back to each other, no matter how impossible it seems. If this story touched your heart, follow Doparenting for more unforgettable, real family stories. Because every family has a story worth telling, and every story deserves to be heard.